Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Usually how I start is I just ask, what's your name, how many kids you have, and what do you do?
Okay. So my name is Lily Horbachuk. I have 2 little ones, and I am the owner and founder of Lil Baby Sleep. So I'm a certified pediatric sleep consultant and a potty training consultant as well. So I help families pretty much all over the world help with their sleep.
Good for you. So did you always do this?
No, I was in sales for a long time, and I went on mat leave with my first. And I had a really horrible experience with him when he was born. And it ended up being that he was like rocked to sleep. I started experiencing postpartum anxiety. So I had a lot of issues when I first became a parent. And I had no idea about sleep when I first started, like any first parent, right? And I think that's what really guided me into learning about sleep. My son, at 4 and 5 months started sleeping like 8 hours, which was like amazing. If you remember like that first chunk of sleep, it feels like amazing. So, and then 12 hours, and then my life really completely changed after that. So I decided to go back to school, and now I have 2 certifications in sleep, one in newborn sleep, one in pediatric sleep. And then I went back for potty training as well. So I have 4 certifications, and I've been doing this for about 6 years now. So I never went back from mat leave.
Good for you. That's crazy. So how long did your certificates take? Was it like a long thing?
Yeah, it was a longer than I thought. So it was about 6 months, but then you also have to do case studies.
Okay.
So you have to work with parents for free and kind of hone in those skills with a teacher as well. So we have to submit 8 case studies per age. So it's a big process to do it. I worked with an international organization to get my certification for pediatric sleep, and then I just did the newborn sleep afterwards. After I'd been in business and thought, I want to add to it. So
good for you.
Yeah.
So you've been doing it for 6 years?
My business has been open for 6 years. Yeah, my daughter just turned 6. I started it when she was a newborn. When she was like 2 weeks old, I remember like studying and her napping and just trying to get it done so that I could start my business.
So did you get into it because you were having a hard time?
Yeah, like with my son, with my first child, I had such a hard time to the point where like I couldn't even function. I had this whole idea of how I wanted to spend my mat leave. And even like my husband was saying like, this can't be like how it is, right? Because I was like rocking and, feeding all night, and he wouldn't sleep on his own, and I was holding, and it was getting like dangerous. So I thought, something has got to change. And I discovered sleep like at 3 a.m. while I was like, browsing my phone, shopping on Amazon. And it totally changed my life. And from then I've been interested in it. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to help families navigate these huge milestones, right? Because it really does make a difference.
That was like your aha moment.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you got to hit rock bottom
Yeah.
before you have those aha moments. You don't know until you become a parent and you know how important sleep is to you.
Of course.
That it makes a huge difference.
So was there not enough support when you were doing, I guess, sleep training on your baby? Like, were there resources that you use, or was it just like...
Yeah, and I think for a lot of parents, this is a really good question, because I think for a lot of parents, we just try to figure it out on our own. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm just going to grab a few tips from here. I think I read we can do this. Let's just start sleep training and do this. And really, there was no guidance.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to do. I ended up like giving up a couple times. I was like, this is too hard. I was exhausted. I had no one to like really help me through it. And that's why I think what I do right now is helping parents through it, being that support system, knowing what is going to happen. And I can kind of give parents a view of what they can expect in 3 days, right? Where I find that so helpful for families. So I wish I would have had that with my first. So that's why I do what I do.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you started 6 years ago. When did you know that like you were good? Was it right away? Because I'm assuming everybody's different. Every kid is different. How do you give, like, what kind of information are you giving to somebody who wants to use your service?
Yeah, I think it's definitely experience. I've worked with a lot of babies, like I would say over 3,000 families
Wow.
to date. And it really does come with experience, but I also, want to learn more. So I do a lot of extra. I have a team now that, we coach each other, we go through scenarios. But I think the key of being good at working with a family is really understanding how the family wants to work. Like, what are your comfort levels? How can I support you? If you want to do this, okay, that's awesome. Let me tell you what to expect. And I think it's really that, working with families, understanding them, really adjusting. Because when it comes to sleep, I'm sure you know this, you have a little one, it can be up and down, right? And there's a lot of tweaking and adjusting and schedules. And so a lot of that takes some support.
Okay.
And I think that's really important.
Cool. So then how does it work if someone wanted to hire you? Is it based on a duration? Is it based on a one-time fee? Like, what does it look like, your packages?
Yeah, so I have something quite unique because I do work with one-on-one with clients. I take very few of them a month
Okay.
because I have an online program. So the reason I can work with families all over the world is because I have a program called Your Dream Plan. So essentially what it is, it's a full support 4-week program. It's done online. You get all the tutorials. I've walked you through a plan. You download a sample plan. You come to a video call with me, so it's still personalized. We will go through it and customize it for you. We meet weekly coaching calls every 4 weeks. Sorry, not every 4 weeks. We meet on coaching calls every week.
Cool.
At 8 p.m. So there's a lot of support in there. There's also a troubleshooting group that they join. So it still gives them the support that they need. And we don't have to offer like a one-on-one, and it is an option, but you don't have to do that, right? So we have that, and we also have a newborn course as well. That is all virtual.
Cool.
So I think in this era, you can do things on Zoom, you can do things virtually, and we've taken advantage of that to be able to provide more families with our services. So that's really what makes us different, I think.
Masterclass with Lily.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A newborn, I think for newborns especially, because, when you're having a baby, how much do you hear about sleep until you have the baby and you're not sleeping, right? Like there should be more courses on it, more understanding about what to expect. And I just think that I think that fills that gap where, for newborn parents especially, just to have that knowledge is life-changing because they know, okay, how newborn sleep works. So that's why, especially with the newborn course, I think it's ideal. But with, 3 months and up, you're still facing a lot of changes with sleep that you might not know what is happening with your little one, but I can really tell you, okay, this is what you can expect at this age, right?
So how do you decide who you're taking on one-on-one versus like group? How do you know when to designate them to like group courses versus individual?
That's a great question. So I offer both
Okay.
and I walk parents through both options.
Okay.
And I let them know there's some parents that really want a lot of hand holding, that are really nervous. Maybe they've heard, oh, there's a lot of crying, or they want like someone there to kind of be on. I'm actually on walkie-talkie with them for the first 7 days.
Get
if you can imagine.
out.
So I'm like, okay, this is what we do. And I would teach them when to respond, when to go in, when to comfort, when to calm, because we do all of those things. And so if you want that, one-on-one support, then you work with me one-on-one.
Cool.
If you want your dream plan, which is still one-on-one, but it's just more weekly, it's just a different way of doing it, then you would do your dream plan. I have parents that are like, no, Lily, you just give me a plan, customize it. I'm off to the races. And if I have questions, I'll reach out to you. And that's awesome because, weekly we will touch base with them.
It reminds me of like personal training, someone who either buys like a program online versus getting a like one-on-one personal training.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Somebody.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, you coach people on like when to go in. I think that's like the hardest part for a parent when your kid is just screaming, and to know what kind of cry is a signal to come and take them and how long you should wait. Can you give us like any tips? Like what are the common like lessons like how long you should wait before going in one sleep training or anything cool
Yeah.
like that?
This is one of the biggest questions because, when you start, you're like, okay, I just let them cry. And that's really not how sleep training works. It's about responding versus reacting. So we're watching for certain types of cries. And if we're like, for example, I call it emotional crying, we're going in to check in and comfort, right? If they are intermittent crying, we are watching. And so I walk parents through what that looks like so that we can give the baby the opportunity to put themselves to sleep if they need, if that's what they need, right? Sometimes you're like, why is my baby crying? Sometimes it's just that they're tired, right? So it's understanding and knowing their cues and making sure that we're meeting all their needs before, so that we are doing it in a very holistic way. So we're doing it in a very holistic way, and we're taking into consideration things like that you wouldn't even consider, like their daytime sleep. Are they overtired? Are they undertired? Do they have a light on in the room that could interrupt sleep? Is their sleep environment ideal? Are we giving them like the best opportunity? Are we weaning feeds at night if they need it? Do we have a weaning plan? Or, do parents know how to wean those feeds? How do we change that sleep association? There's so many sleep training techniques. And I always say, my job is to just lay out all the options for you. You, as a family, decide what you're comfortable with, what you want to do, and I will walk you through that. So that's really how it works. It's a very much a partnership and very much working together. So we do that one-on-one and with our group program, because we don't want it to be like just an online course where you go on and you're like on your own, because that's not how sleep works. We need to be there. And I think it's a selfish thing too, because I'm like, how are you? How was last night? Right? Because I worry about my clients. I want to make sure that everybody that comes through our programs sees success and is able to see that within like very quickly, right?
So I have like two follow-up questions. One, in terms of like success, is it like a high success rate, or does everybody get the same result at the end? And the second question was, do some parents find it taboo, like sleep training? So maybe those are my two.
Yeah. So for your first question, yes, there is a high success rate, in that the methods that we use are all proven. Okay. They're all based on evidence. They're all safe to do. But the issue is if you don't follow the plan, you're not going to get the success.
Got it.
So where my role comes in is to help you follow the plan, be there as your support person, but ultimately your success is determined on how well we follow the plan, right? Sure. If you get a plan from me, but you don't do it,
or start tweaking it.
Yeah, it's like working out, right?
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
If you join the gym, but you don't go to the gym, you can't see the results. The same thing. If you get a plan and we walk through it and I message you, I'm like, how are you doing? And then you don't follow through, then that's your results, right? But if you do the plan and you follow and you reach out for support, we can guarantee that you're going to get results, because they're very effective strategies, right? So that's the answer to your first question. The second question is a big one, because it's sleep training. There is a big taboo around sleep training, because I think most families and that hear about it, they all hear about the cry it out method, which is actually a method that very few sleep experts use these days. And it's really one set of the extreme. So we kind of work in the middle, right? We work to customize the sleep training method to what you're comfortable with. Ultimately, you can't eliminate crying altogether, because it's just a big change for a baby, especially the older they get, the more the habit is kind of, instilled. They've never had to sleep in any other way. So it's going to be a little bit frustrating for them, just like any of us when we're changing habits. You're not going to love it.
Of course.
But I think it's how you choose to respond, and letting your baby learn that, by still being there to comfort and calm them without putting them to sleep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they did this naturally, like the generation before us, like our parents or the parents before them? Obviously, I'm assuming there was not that many resources. Do you think they just went with their gut?
Yeah, I think also they had a lot more support, right? And in different countries, there's a lot different families. There's a lot more support these days. for us parents that are working, that have to get up to go to work the next day, that don't have a mom and dad that, live in the same house, that can help. Every situation is so different, right? So I think our generation before us kind of forgets.
Yeah, totally.
They're like, oh, I did it this way. And they forget kind of how it really was. And some parents, choose to do it a different way, which I think is totally fine and based on our current situation. We don't have that, like what they call like the village anymore, right? It's just sometimes just like a family unit, and you just got to survive. And, it's really important to get that sleep, because that's everything, for dads, for moms, for every caregiver, like they need that, and your baby needs it. So it can really change your dynamics of your family, all the relationships in your family. So that's why I think it's so important, if that's something that's affecting you, to make those changes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Your course, does it? Because like we kind of touched on something where I thought was really interesting, the different types of cries. Like, does your course highlight the different types of cries? Because I don't know, like being a father, you just sometimes know that cry sounds different. I should go in, and of course it's like their leg is stuck in the crib or something different, right? Yeah. So how many types of cries should somebody look into, or can they
Yeah, and it's so funny because when I'm on a call with a family, whether they're in your online on your dream plan or they're working with me one-on-one, I'm actually crying for them.
Oh, that's
it's so funny
funny
because I'm like, if you hear this, that's and I think that's why it's important to walk them through what to expect. Are they frustrated? Are they in distress? If you really want to go in, go ahead. It's not a big deal. Just go in and do this and comfort them. And then, as soon as they're calm, put them. So I kind of walk them through exactly how to do it so that they don't feel like, oh my goodness, I'm worried that their leg is stuck or they can't. So I want to make sure that they have a plan. And I think that's the key, is like, have a game plan, have your family sit down, all agree on the game plan. That's going to get you success, because if you're trying to make up a game plan at 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm going to tell you it's not going to work.
Of course.
Right? Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Like I remember when we were doing sleep training, like, okay, 10-minute mark, and you're just like, oh God, how long can I sit here listening to them cry? And it's hard. It's hard for the parents, I guess, to be disciplined to go with the plan, obviously, that you set up. So I don't know if you guys know, but Lily was our sleep trainer. You helped Sophie and my wife, Elise. So it's tough. It's tough doing it, and it's tough being firm on like the rules, right?
Yeah. And I think as a parent myself, I understand that. And sometimes when I'm on a walkie-talkie call, I'm like, you got this. Yeah. I know it's a minute, but it feels like 10 minutes. Yeah. And I walk them through what it means. Sometimes I get videos, okay, baby's standing. What do I do? So I kind of can walk them through it, and sometimes it distracts them a little bit. Yep. And they're like, oh, baby's asleep. And I want to say that it doesn't really take a long time. I think we have this idea that baby's going to cry for long periods of time, and it really shouldn't be that way. It really should be short, done, easy, unless you choose a very slow, which what we call habit stacking. So we're changing habits really slowly. If you choose a method like that, you can expect it because it's going to take a little bit longer. So that's kind of why I lay out all the options for parents, because I want them to choose and have this expectation that is realistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think like the top couple, things parents do that ruin the sleep training?
So putting baby to sleep after they've been, crying, or helping to sleep at the end. Usually when we start, we are going all in. Okay. So whether you're doing very gentle, you're staying in the room with your baby, but if you end up helping to sleep, then you got to restart. And I always tell families, let's not do this. Like, let's just do this once and done. Okay. And so it takes a lot of consistency. I think consistency is the key thing that is going to get you success. So if you start anything, your baby's not going to know from the first time or the one time that you do it, that's the new way of doing things, right? It takes patterns. It takes consistency. It takes them to notice, okay, this is how I fall asleep. And so if you do this and, it's one time and then you help to sleep, your baby's not going to learn how to do it. They're actually going to feel a little bit overwhelmed because they don't know what your response is going to be, right? Because sometimes mom puts me to sleep. Sometimes she helps me. Sometimes she says, you're on your own, right? Sometimes they pat me to sleep. Sometimes they rock me. And so there's no clear pattern. And so can be very confusing for your little one. And they learn through repetition, through what we do, right? So that's I think consistency is super important.
Got it. So you used the word reset. Can you always reset up like your sleep training with a baby?
Yeah.
Can it always just be reset, or is there any like expiration date on when like sleep training doesn't work anymore?
No, I'm working with like a 9-year-old right now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, and it's a whole different ball game. I think like it's a whole different approach with older kids. But you can start at any time. You can sleep train and then something kind of goes crazy. And I think a lot of people will say, oh, I have to retrain. But what that really is just going back to your regular response, really, because you change something. Now your baby changes their expectations if you change your response, right? So that's the new way of doing things. And you just go back to the old way of doing things, right? So it's really just being consistent.
Okay.
But yes, in terms of age, I have a lot of parents that come to me. They have older kids. And they're like, is it too late for me to get started? And it's not. It's just a whole different approach that we would take. More about setting boundaries, more about parenting situations where with babies, we're looking at just, all the other things that, factor into sleep, and then also a sleep training approach, right?
So do you have a course for those different ages?
Yes.
The older ones?
Yes. We have your Dream Plan Toddler, which is preschool toddler. And then we have your Dream Plan, which is 3 months to 18 months. And then we have the newborn course.
Cool.
Yeah. So we have something for everybody.
Good for you.
And we have a course for potty training as well. So
And they just get it directly from your website?
yeah, you just click the link. It comes. You get your own private portal. It has all of the modules in there. It has where to book your calls. So it's really simple to use, but it is all of them have some sort of support.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I want to gauge in, I want to branch out to so many different questions, but I kind of still want to stay in the track. I guess one question I have is the one difficult thing that we experience is when we put them in daycare, they don't sleep because of so many like different, externalities, just different, more people are in the room. That screws us up the most.
Yeah.
Because she sleeps when we're at home and we do nap time at like noon.
Yeah.
But a daycare is very rare that she will sleep.
Yeah.
And then she has to sleep an hour early. So we come home, eat dinner quickly, and she goes to bed by 6:30 to make sure she has that 12 hours. So I guess there's nothing you can really do about it in terms of daycare.
Yeah. Daycare is hard because you are putting your day in the hands of somebody else. Yeah. And some daycares are really great. I've worked with daycares that are really great with working with my daughter when she was in daycare. I told them, sleep is really important to us because if not, she's not sleeping at night. Yeah. So please, this is the schedule we want to follow. And some of them are great and they will work with you and it'll be great. And some, and you have to understand their perspective too. They have a lot of kids. Yeah. And so they just can't cater to everybody. So I understand that. So it's just about finding a daycare that's willing to work with you. And if they're not, I always say what happens at daycare stays at daycare.
Yeah.
And then at home, you still have a great sleeper and you'll troubleshoot just like you guys do. You'll troubleshoot your day based on how that is. So if they don't take a nap, you're doing the right thing by doing an earlier bedtime, which kind of sucks because you don't have that time. Yep. But I always say, and this is one of the things that dads usually say to me, and they're like, we come home from work and we want to have that quality time with our kid, but they have to go to bed at like 6 o'clock. But I always say it's like quality versus quantity, sure. Right? So if you get like a good smaller amount of time or a good bedtime or even like in the morning, when your kid is not overtired,
Of course.
it's such better quality time. When they're like, having, a meltdown because they're exhausted and you're trying to like do
Not
a bedtime
fun.
story, it's not a fun time, right?
course.
So there are things that we need to adjust and sacrifices that we have to make for sleep. But, your little one's going to feel much better. They're going to see things much clearer and you're going to have better quality time. And it's temporary,
Yeah.
right?
So 2 questions. One is, would you ever consider starting a course for educators, teachers, daycare, ECE teachers to train them?
Yeah.
I think that would be an awesome
I think
idea.
you're
I don't-
starting something.
yeah, like I feel like sleep is important. And if they could get the training they need, that's just like another avenue of not only revenue, but just helping out.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I work with a lot of families in the US where our little ones are going into daycare at 4 months, right? And so it's a whole different working with families, all over the world. I see, how early they go to daycare and how important that is for their naps. So yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. So how do you know when there's no more afternoon, like noon nap time?
So if that's the only nap that your little one is taking, then usually by 3,
Okay.
if they start to like take a long time to go to bed or have early mornings, essentially what you're doing by having a nap is that you're eating out of the night sometime because your little one can only get 24 hours, a certain amount of sleep in a 24-hour period. So if they're having like 2 hours during the day and then they're like waking up early, they're eating that.
Got it.
I know I always show it with my hands, but we want to reduce that, even by half an hour and see if you get your full 12 hours because your night sleep is most important, right? Because you get your deep non-REM, what we call slow wave sleep, and you get light REM in the early mornings, and that sleep is more quality sleep. So if you are replacing it with a nap, then it's time for the nap to go.
I think we're there. I think it's almost time that
It's
afternoon
hard.
nap is done.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to let go of,
Yeah.
especially, but you can replace it with quiet time. We did quiet time until our kids were old, and it's like the best thing ever because you still get an hour in the middle of the day and they are playing independently. They're not sleeping, but they're resting. So that's something you can replace it with. But yeah, it's a hard one. Most parents come to me, they're like, we do not want to get rid of this nap. And if they don't do the nap, they're so cranky.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of move your bedtime up to shift. It's a big shift in their internal clock, right? In their circadian rhythm. So we have to kind of push through it a little bit, move bedtime early for a little bit until they get used to it and they can handle it. Or you're going to get in this cycle of like always adding a nap and then always having a later bedtime, always having an earlier morning, right?
Got it. Noise machines, how important are they?
I love them. I know adults that love them.
Yeah.
I love them because especially if you have more than one, it takes away the ambient noise, but it is a sleep association, right? It is something that you can become reliant on. But it's not a bad one, I would say, because it's something that is very easy to wean off of.
Okay.
It's like the easiest sleep association to wean off of. I love it for newborns because it really settles them. But I also love it for like as your baby gets older. What we used to do is buy like the portable one and then take it with us. And it was like automatic. You turn it on, baby falls asleep. And then, if it turns off, baby wakes up.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have it on all night. I think it's a great tool. It's almost like a tool in your toolbox that you can use.
Cool.
But I love it for newborns for sure.
And I'm not sure, like lights, like night lights, should they be using it? Should they not?
I really like night lights.
Okay.
Before 2, usually your child doesn't have developmentally, they're not really scared of the dark.
Okay.
So here's the thing is if you want to use a nightlight, especially if you have a toddler, a 3-year-old, you might want to.
Okay.
You might want to do a red light. So a red light really won't disturb, it's a slower wave light, so it won't disturb the brain. It's not going to wake you up because our bodies are used to looking for light, food, and social interaction to wake up for the day. And so any light that creeps in, that's on could trigger a wake up. So we want to kind of avoid that. Plus, our bodies produce melatonin in the dark. And so you can only produce melatonin in the dark. So that's why we dim lights. We use lights to our advantage, especially to prepare for sleep and to get our little ones ready for sleep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice could you give me? Like now Sophia's 3, and I notice that she just always wants one more song or one more story. And like, sometimes I feel guilty. Like, should I be leaving her like that? And I know how important sleep is for her. And I don't want to get into this whole dialogue of, because after that song, she still wants another one. So I actually just leave and I just say, if you need me, I'm in the other room.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Should we feel bad for having those boundaries?
I don't think so. I think it's very, very important for them to have the boundaries and to know how much they can push, because that gives them a sense of security. Now, if you want to talk about boundaries and changing them, during the day is a really great time to do that. If she's continuously asking for a third story, maybe you have a little meeting before. You say, okay, for bedtime today, we're going to do 3 stories. So you're not like doing it as like a last minute thing where you're like, okay, fine, 5 more stories, right? Yeah. But you're kind of setting the boundaries ahead of time and you're letting her make some decisions. At her age, she wants to make some very simple decisions. So like, would you like to read 2 books or 4 books? Like between 1 and 2. So have her choose and kind of make the bedtime the way she wants it so that she feels in control. But then when you set those boundaries, really stick to those boundaries. And if you want to adjust them the next day, you can. But it's that negotiation at bedtime that can cause a lot of issues and can really help them like push that, because their job is to push boundaries to see how far they can get.
Of course.
And so like, if you feel like it's important, like potty, incorporate it into your bedtime routine the next day and make sure that it's visual, that they've like checked off that, and that they feel control over their bedtime, but still hold boundaries, because boundaries are important.
Yeah, they're so like sometimes manipulative, because like we do make sure they go to the bathroom before, and then they'll just throw in the word like, I need to go to the bathroom. And you don't want to restrict them and just say no. But then sometimes, they don't have to go.
Yeah, you're like,
it's killer.
Yeah, and it's always give them the opportunity. I do like a double potty like time during bedtime, right? So giving them the opportunity to actually go, but really holding those boundaries, because oftentimes it is, they do realize that, oh, okay, so if I do this, I can get, right? And I think that's just part of development for them, right? So
is it harder to sleep train with 2 kids? I'm not saying at the same time, but if one is waking up, like, I'm not really sure how I address that question, but we live in a 1-bedroom, and if we had a second kid, would they wake up? I don't know.
Yeah, I think if your first one is sleeping well, that's why it's really important to get them sleeping well, because then you don't have to worry if they wake up, because you know that they can put themselves back to sleep. They don't need that, right? But if they're not, that's when we have usually what I do. And if I work with families that have 2 that are having issues, I separate them. I do 1, get them sleeping well, get the other one sleeping well, and then we put them together in the same room. And, with a good sound machine, you should be fine. Yeah.
Got it. So I guess then if you have more than one child the same age, would you still separate them?
Yeah, like I would say it depends. So like sometimes it can take like 3 days, 3 to 5 days. So we do like a long weekend, we get it done. We make they go to grandma's for the weekend. We kind of get it done. There are many ways to do it, but I think that's usually divide and conquer is what they call it. Divide and conquer. And then once they're sleeping well, they can adjust to anything, right? So you don't then have to worry about them waking up, because they should be able to put themselves to sleep without it becoming a thing.
Got it. Why do you think some parents and maybe older generation don't understand the importance of sleep, or being so like sometimes my parents say, just let her skip the nap. What's the big deal? And come for Sunday lunch. So we get that a lot, and it heats up sometimes. So why do you think?
That's a great question. I think they just might not remember or they don't have to deal with
Yeah.
it. And so they don't have to be there at night when your little one's like going to bed late and then waking up at 5 a.m., right? So they're like, okay, it's totally fine. And I think there's a point to that. I think it's important to be flexible.
Okay.
And once your little one is a good sleeper and they're getting enough rest and they're not in a sleep deficit, yeah, like skip it sometimes, right? Like, there has to be, I call it like the 80-20 rule for everything, right? But 80% of the time you're consistent and 20% of the time life happens.
Got it.
And I always coach parents on how to do naps on the go. So how to troubleshoot their day. Because a lot of it is going to be, nap 2 went crazy. Do I do an early bedtime? Do I do a cat nap? And so it's just kind of helping them adjust their days. But if your little one's a good sleeper, they're more flexible. They're not going to melt down as much. It's just going to be a one-time thing, and then they're going to move on, and you're going to move on. And sometimes it's okay to just smile and nod at parents and be like, you are right. We will do it. Just because it helps avoid conflict.
Fair enough. Yeah, I find it like really hard when we were first sleep training. We'd have to be back home by like 11:45 a.m. to get everything going. And it's like, you had to find activities that were just a couple hours because you didn't want to miss that.
Yeah. And
nap.
I don't want parents to feel like it's like a rigid thing, but it actually will give you a lot more freedom knowing when they sleep because you can plan your days around it and then you can be, flexible.
So there's so much information on sleep training. Like what kind of tips can you give people in terms of, let's just say they were just looking for online stuff or YouTube? Is there any credible places they can go to?
Yeah, I think there's just so much information on sleep training on the net,
and that's
right?
that's exactly it. Like my wife says, there's so much information, it gets overwhelming. What do you do?
Yeah, there's a couple credible websites that I like that are, really taking all sides. And really, I think the best thing to do is to look for, peer-reviewed studies that have been done and looking at the evidence, right? There's a lot of, people that will talk about it in this happened to me, or I've heard that this is harmful. And that just causes a lot of fear in parents. So look at the evidence, look at what your pediatrician is telling you, look at what is peer reviewed and actually the facts. There's a good website that I'm going to send you that has, all of these studies that are already online. And it talks about how it's portrayed online by like anti-sleep training kind of side and the sleep training side. And there's always like that battle, right? But when it comes down to it, there's solid evidence that this is normal, that this is that it is safe. And so I always look at that. But then I also say, like, if you're not comfortable doing something, don't do it, right? If you're like having the time of your life and you're like rocking and you love it, no one says that that's a wrong thing to do, right? Parenting, there's no wrong way to parent. So like, if it doesn't work with your parenting style, then we'll work on something else. We might just have to change the expectations and, I'll be like, okay, if you don't want to do this, if you don't have to do sleep training, let's just work on everything else. And this is what you can expect. They will still wake up at night and they will still need help, but you're okay with that, right? So it's about really just choosing something that works for your family and not feeling like you're doing the wrong thing or you're, not parenting the right way. Like, I don't really think that there's a right way to parent. I think we're all just in the same boat, just trying to make it
Totally.
survive at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
So how's like your, you have obviously your courses. Have you ever considered, opening up a YouTube and kind of balancing out how you can monetize on YouTube? Because I see some, channels have like millions of subscribers. And have you ever considered, like, we're shifting to more business side of your sleep training? Like what's the future hold? What have you thought of? What are the things you want to do?
Oh, there's so many things that I want to do. And if you talk to my husband, he's like, slow down. Like, just do what you can because, I have my family and everything. And so, yeah, I want to do all of it. But, I really want to focus on making your dream plan the program, and it's just like getting it really good. And the newborn course just launched last year, so we're really making sure that people are feeling supported in our community. In there's like a community where you ask questions. So I want to make sure that we're giving the love to the people that are in our programs.
Of course.
And we get so many great reviews and great stories and sharing those. And I think, there's so much potential in the future to do so much more of that. I obviously love to talk. And so I'm happy to, do all of that. It's just, getting there. I want to make sure we have a good foundation for it.
So how much time do we have, Gab? So how does your day look like? You're a mom and you run a business. How do you do it? Who handles all your content on Instagram, social media, websites? Like, how do you do it as a mom? What are some of the challenges you face?
Yeah, so I like to plan.
Okay.
And I have everything planned out pretty well. I do have a team that helps. So I have a virtual assistant, and I have Jen, who is also a sleep coach. She works on the Your Dream Plan program, and she manages and makes sure everybody's happy. She checks in with everybody. She does the initial calls, and then we flip back and forth on our weekly calls. So one Wednesday I'll do it, one Wednesday she does it. So it's running really smoothly right now. And I'm happy with that, and I'm happy that it is running so smoothly. I do all of the first calls because I want to get to know each family that wants to work with me, and I want to lay it all out for them. And I do my content. I love it. It's just something that I enjoy. I like talking to people. I love that interaction. That's what, fuels me. And I love working with families, and I don't want to give that up. And I know I should have some more help, but I'm just like holding on to that piece as much as possible because I do Q&As every Sunday. And then during the week when I have time, as I run errands or I do things for my business between calls, I'll answer a question. And so that's, I think, what I love most about it. And, as a business owner, you don't want to lose that, like, the heart of your business.
I think that's so important because when people start like franchising, that's when it loses the quality of it. So it's great that you're still doing it. At what stage, like, were you ever scared when you were being an entrepreneur that, you weren't getting enough business? Like, I know now you're already established, but what did those moments feel like, if they were ever there?
Yeah, I think every month is a scary month for an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Like, it goes up and down. Our summer times are not as busy for sleep, and they're busier for potty training. So it's really knowing the waves of how demand works. But I think we're at a point now where we're working with families on their second children, on potty training. We work with newborns, and then we work with the same family. So we're building those long-term relationships. And I think that's what's really helpful is now people know us, they recommend us, they know that the quality that they're going to get. And it's like I become part of the family. I watch these kids grow up because I'm there for their parents, every step of the way. And I love that. But, it took us 6 years to get there. So I think it really is just going to build from there. And, I do a lot of social media. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I have a lot of families that hear from us all over the world. I have lots of families abroad, like, Netherlands. We're working with someone right now in Korea. We have someone in Dubai, a family in Dubai. So we have families from all over that do all these online programs. And so it's really interesting.
Good for you.
It makes it really, the time change is a little bit hard, right? But it actually works out. I had a family, and I think it was Vietnam, and they are a whole different time zone from us. So it was like their night and my day. It worked out perfectly because I was like on call for them at night, right? So sometimes it just works out really well.
So your social media posts, are they all organic? Do you have to boost? Do you have to put aside money for advertising?
Yeah, so I do run Facebook ads for newborn. We have a free newborn routines that we offer. We also have a lot of freebies. We have a lot of free schedules. So we have schedules from 3 months up to 3 years old, all free. You can download them. And so we have a lot of free content and free, even if you're reading our blogs, we come up with a blog nearly every week of something new in sleep, right? So there's a lot of information out there. And then if you're interested, you can always then, upgrade to more if you need the help, right? So that's really how we get the word out is email.
Okay.
Email is a big one for us.
It's hard.
Yeah. Building
Social,
those
yeah.
relationships on email. And it's taken us years to do that. But I think the key is being consistent. I'm there every Thursday morning. You get an email from me with tips and information. And then, every Sunday we also send another one. So it's like we are very consistent with building that relationship long-term with people through email as well. And on our socials,
Cool.
right? So, yeah.
So what does your day look like, including like, division of labor with you and your husband? Who does what? Who does drop-offs? Who's cooking dinner? Give me like a day in the life.
So we just did our schedule. On Sundays, we do like, okay, who's picking up the kids on Monday? Who's picking up the kids Tuesday? So we have to like plan our weeks.
Okay.
I have a call at that time, so it really does depend on the week.
Okay.
And how many calls I have booked in for that week. And I always like schedule out my days. But yeah, like, one day I'll do drop off for the kids. Right now they get off at 3:10. Someone's going to be there to pick them up. We do have a lot of help. So thankfully my in-laws help a lot. And so we kind of have to work it out between us. You do dinner, I do soccer. We have so many activities for the kids too. Like I feel like I work at night.
Okay.
Sometimes I get up at 4:30 in the morning to work before my kids get up. They get up at 7. So I'm up, writing a blog in the morning, answering emails. And then when my kids go to bed, I'm working until about 9 p.m. And then, we do it all again. So it is a really challenging, job. And I just love what I do. And, it's a really emotional job, I think, too, because when you're working with sleep deprived parents, it's not easy. It's not
Sure.
an easy job for them. It's not easy, to be their support person as well. But, it's really worth it. And it can get rough before it gets easy. And you worry about them, right? Yeah. You want to make sure that they're doing well. And I think that's good. But it can also put a lot of emotional toll on us as well as sleep consultants, because we're like, we really care about this family. We want them to do good. If they're not having a good night, and I don't have a good night, I don't sleep. I'm like waking up at 6 o'clock to check my messages to see if, are they doing well? But I think that's what sets us apart too. Amazing. Is that we really do care about our families.
That's amazing. How do you have time for like personal stuff? It seems like you work all the time. Do you go out with your husband? Do you guys do things together? How do you manage that with such a busy schedule?
We try to go out, once a month. It is busy. I work out in the mornings. I'm like from 6 to 7, I'm working out. I'm pretty strict with that.
Good for you.
I pencil it in. I make sure I get my 8 hours. Yep. Because don't get me wrong, I sleep, and I'm the end of the night by 9 o'clock when I'm done my last call, I'm pretty much dead to the world.
Got it.
Right? My phone turns off and I am in like bed. But, I am up at 4:30 to get everything done that I need to get done for myself, and also to have time with my husband, on Fridays, on weekends. I try not to work as much on the weekends, but it happens. On weekends, we're full with family, and on Sundays, I do not work, and we just do our own thing. But we're just trying to make it. And I think in the future, it'll get a lot easier. Our kids are small right now. Yep. They're 5 and 7.
Okay.
So they're still at that age where they still need us quite a bit. And this business has been really good in giving me that time, because I can, ask Jen to take some calls. If I can't take them, I only take 4 clients a month. So I don't really overdo it with my clients, because I know that they need a lot of support and I don't want to take away from that. And your dream plan runs itself. It's really good with Jen helping me. So I think we're doing a good job at it, but you could always have more time.
Your courses, do you have to tweak them as time goes on, or are they pretty much set in stone in terms of the processes?
I think we definitely have to tweak them. We do send everybody a questionnaire once they're done, and they were like, what can I change? What can I improve? What did you not like? What did you not like? And based on that, I'll make some changes. But really, we've had really good feedback from it. They're like, don't change a thing. It's really good. So I'm not touching it. But if we do need to update, I will be updating videos. I'll be updating schedules. But we do it, based on what our clients tell us.
Got it. What's the ideal age to start sleep training?
So you can start anytime after 3 months. I think for newborns, we do a very different kind of setting up sleep foundations.
Okay.
That's why the newborn course is kind of set up that way. But anytime after 3 months, my favorite age is 5 months, just because it's the easiest time. It's not, they're not as attached to the habit. They're not as vocal. They're not standing, they're not saying, Mom, hey, where are you? Daddy. So it's a lot easier. It's not, obviously, it can happen at any time, but I like, the baby stage. But toddlers are also amazing. And I love working with toddlers, and I work with them potty training as well. And it works really well, but there's a lot of consistency that needs to happen. And that sometimes is hard for parents, and changing habits at an older age is hard, sure. Right? So, yeah.
What would you say the majority of your demographics in terms of being fathers or mothers?
I think definitely there's a lot of moms that follow me, but actually I work with a lot of families, and I find that the most successful families are the ones where every family member is involved.
Got it.
And when I see a family where both, mom and dad or both caregivers are on the call, I can already tell them they're going to be good.
Oh, awesome.
Because sometimes they need that support, right? If you're trying to do it on your own and you don't have family support, I'm there for you, but it's a lot harder, right? So, I think that I have a lot of families that join, and a lot of dads that take initiative, that are like, I'm going to do it. Sometimes it's harder for moms if they're breastfeeding, or if they're, it might be a little bit harder for them to kind of physically.
Yep.
So, dads sometimes are the calmer. They have more of a calm energy to them. And I'm like, let's send dad in, let's get dad to do it, because they can handle it. And sometimes I even send mom away and go take a walk, go get, go to the store, and dad does it, and dad does awesome job. And then they get really into it, and they're like, okay, Lily, they get really involved. And I love to see that when both parents get involved, because usually when I do my chat groups with them, when we're on walkie-talkie, I have a group, and it says baby Sophia sleep, baby Hudson sleep. And it has both parents in it. And so the three of us are chatting away. Okay. And so it makes it so much funner and easier. Yeah.
Fair enough. What was I going to ask? I don't know why. Sometimes it's easier for me to do bedtime when Elise is not home. When they know the mom is there, it just changes the whole dynamic of it.
Yeah. They know.
So it's really quite interesting. So if somebody bought your package, and let's say 2 years down the line needed, is there a refresher? Do they pay for, if they need more advice? How does that work for somebody who's already purchased a course from you?
Yeah, so they get a special link,
okay.
And we have additional support. So they can either buy a call. If you buy a call, you have to fill out logs for a week, so I can give you the best feedback.
Got it.
And then we can sit on a call. They can purchase to be in our Facebook group for the month, so that you can just ask really quick questions. If you need just a schedule change, you can really upgrade to anything. And I have families that have worked with me at baby, but now at toddler, they're like, oh, we just need tweaks. We just need to talk. We just need you to call. We need our sleep consultant. So we need you. So then they'll book a call with me, or they'll book a call with Jen or other sleep coach. And that's usually how it works. But you always have access to us. I always tell my families, it's not over.
Yeah.
It's never over, but I'm not I'm not going anywhere. I'm always here if you need me. If you need to reach out and you want to join our Facebook group, which is our private troubleshooting group, and it's $20 a month, and you come in for the month and you can leave, right? You can come in, ask your questions, and go. And it's only offered to our past clients. But you can pay monthly and be in there just in case you need something. So there's a lot of options.
That's amazing. Graham, how are we looking? 54. We have 6 minutes. I don't know. Like, I think we covered a lot in terms of like sleep training. And I know it's too late to get into the whole potty training, but are there any like little tidbits of information or advice you can give parents? Anything? I know we covered a lot, or anything you can tell us and cover this 6 minutes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that it's important to reach out for support. If you're struggling, reach out. If you're happy, do your thing. I love it. But reach out for support if you need. I think we feel like we have to do everything all on our own all the time. And that we should know. Like, sleep is just like one of these things that we should just know about.
Yeah.
But there's so much intricacies. You know that. Like, there's so much you don't know.
And that's actually a great question. I should ask you, what is sleep training?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So really, sleep training is just changing a sleep onset association. So a sleep onset association is when your little one is used to falling asleep in a certain way. And so what happens is that our brains try to maximize energy and they form habits essentially, right? So they're like, okay, mom feeds and then I sleep, or dad rocks me and then I sleep. And so if they're put down asleep, as soon as they hit a light stage of sleep and they're going into light REM sleep, their bodies are designed to wake up, to check their surroundings, to make sure that, they're okay. And so if they wake up and they don't have that one thing that helps them to sleep, well, they're going to wake up and cry for that one thing. And so what we do in sleep training is really just help them learn to fall asleep without any external support so that they can put themselves to sleep just like we do as adults. Like, we all wake up every 2 hours at night. It's a normal thing. It's just we can put ourselves back to sleep pretty easily. And so that's what we want to teach them, is that skill of like, okay, I wake up and then I don't need the rocking anymore because I fell asleep here, so I know where I am, and I can just like link that sleep cycle and go back. And so even with, you could probably see it with your daughter, is they still wake up at night. They just are able to put themselves back to sleep. And that's essentially what sleep training means. And you can do that in many different ways. There's many ways to get to the same result. Just really depends on what your family wants to do and feels comfortable doing. And I think that's why it's important to have some help and guidance in, okay, this is what we want to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So usually how I end the podcast, I'm going to only ask you one of them, but who would you think would be a good guest on this podcast if you can pick somebody?
Oh my gosh.
Because I feel like having you was amazing. You specialize in sleep training. This is something people want to know about. And this is great information to, let people feel a part of.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's other avenues of different departments, I guess.
Well, my specialty would be parenting, right? So anything that has to do with how, I love working with parenting coaches. I work with occupational therapists to help. I refer out to speech therapists. So anything that can help you improve your relationship with your child or really understand what's going on. Potty training.
Yeah, no, we gotta do a part 2. We'll have you back and we'll do a part 2 of potty training. 100%.
Because that's one of the things that I find families struggle with a lot. And there's no resources out there to kind of, okay, I have a lot of parents that are like, just give me a plan. And I do it for sleep and I do it for potty training. And I'm like, day 1, you do this. Day 2. And I wish I had that, right? I wish somebody would be like, this is just what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And this is how you troubleshoot it, so that I don't have to guess and take 1,000, days to figure this out on my own.
Of course.
Right. It's just like when my husband wants to fix things on his own.
Just call a plumber.
And I'm like, just call the expert.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, doing this for the next year. I just want it fixed. I want it done now, right? And I think that sleep can fall into that category, potty training, parenting, just call an expert that has, dealt with this before. And I can guarantee you that they've seen, if you tell me an issue, I've probably seen it. If, I've probably experienced it at this point and I know kind of how to navigate it. Whereas you've never seen it.
Yeah.
You're new to this parenting thing. I wouldn't expect you to have seen it. But, there's a way to navigate it that maybe you don't know.
Do you want to plug your Instagram for the potty training?
Of course. So Potty Training is Lil Potty Plan.
Okay.
And you can find me on Instagram at Lil Baby Sleep.
Okay, we'll check those two out. So you didn't answer it. Who would actually come?
Oh, okay. Who would actually come? Oh my gosh, that's a big question. I don't know many people. I have a small world.
Okay, if you ever, because I feel like you're...
I'll call you.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know, but let's definitely get you back for the potty training.
I would
We're
love
gonna do
that.
Thank you so much for coming on. This
Oh,
was amazing.
thank
I
you.
loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, it was so fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, till next time. Shout out to Graham, Toronto Podcast Studio. Love this place.